Hello there, sixth grade. You guys are finishing up Hatchet. We have an assignment that will be due middle next week as we wrap up the book and have a test and finish this thing up. Um, so I want to talk to you about some of these central ideas that you're going to do an assignment about. You can choose one of the themes and write a 4 to 6 sentence response to detail how it's a central idea, a theme, and be specific in your details by giving examples or quotes from instances that support your claims. So go back in the book and give examples, try to find those in any way that you can. One good way might be to go back to your chapter questions and your responses and pull from those. So the first item is one that was brought up in some of our questions already. So adversity and growth is huge. This is to me is the easiest, the most obvious central idea of the story. Brian is a city kid who gets stuck in the woods in Canada, and the pilot that was flying him dies, and the plane crashes, and he's stuck here. Then what? And putting yourself in that situation, how do you survive? And this is somebody who doesn't camp on weekends and doesn't get out of the city much unless he is visiting his dad, and this is that instance. So adversity at first was a negative force. The parents' divorce, it ruins his life. It changes everything for him. And that is what defines him. The secret is what defines him. But then once he finds himself facing much bigger problems, much more adversity, he has to overcome those challenges. So he finds courage and he can overcome things because of that courage. So adversity and problems, having those makes you capable of growth. It's like having a mistake, learning from a mistake, having a problem and overcoming it. So that's a huge idea, and pretty easy one to find things about as you've been reading. So um, I don't even know if I need to go into that a whole lot. The bear and the plane crash and the things anyone needed to get out of the plane and the porcupine and the skunk and all of those things are things that are problems, and he overcomes that. But the greatest thing he overcomes is living in a situation where it would have been easy to have just given up. So going to the next one, independence versus connection. So some of you might be like, man, I wish I could live out in the woods. And then you run out of supplies and it's not all that nice. Camping like Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec with all the stuff from the magazine in the airline booklet, having a PlayStation 4 and a big screen TV and fancy tents, that's great. But what if you didn't have those things and then you were stuck out in the woods? So, excuse me. At the beginning, he's upset about his parents, Brian is, and takes his immediate safety for granted. So, yes, everything seems awful because his parents are getting a divorce and things aren't the way they were meant to be. But then he's still safe, and then having that independence, he's got to do it all on his own at that point. That's a very difficult transition to go from um, a kid who can have mom make him a sandwich to kid finding turtle eggs, kid eating gut cherries, kid fishing without a fishing pole or a license. So the pilot's heart attack creates a situation and Brian is completely vulnerable, completely helpless, and he has to overcome that. So, um, the independence in nature is something that he has to cope with. And at first, he feels it proves to be a means by which he gains confidence to survive. So, independence is something that can breed confidence. Like Mrs. Vogel went to college on her own and she lived on her own in Columbus and Cleveland. And she's able to do so many more things than me because I never lived on my own. Um, I always had someone with me. And so, she's okay doing things independently because she's had that experience. And I'm clingy and needy because I've never been alone. So, um, he thinks that he has nothing of value in all of the stuff that he still has after the crash. But then he remembers his English teacher. Remember your English teachers, guys. The English teacher said you are your most valuable asset. And so independence is grown out of Mr. Perpitch's quotes that Brian pulls from. He is his greatest asset. And so independence um, soars because it has to. He can't rely on anybody else. Um, but then perhaps that connection that he's seeking, the absence of that connection, is making him stronger. Perhaps he wants to survive so that he can see his family again. So he gets these basic survival skills. Um, and then he has these sharpened senses and perception of connection that give him a more sustainable way of existing in the wilderness. So this independence leads to a connection with nature. So connection with nature eventually leads to connection with the rest of the world because he's able to live. So Paulson points out here that the necessity of surrendering independence in favor of interconnection, even when independence may seem to be the easier route, is what we see here in the end. And so independence is something that we love. We love to have time to ourselves, but then do you want that forever? Just think about this stay at home order. Like, yeah, I get to stay home with my family and I get to finally not have to go to school, but you miss that connection. And Brian misses that connection still as well. The next one is the natural world. And the natural world obviously is nature. It's foreign to him at the beginning. And through his experiences and his adversity, he grows and he is able to make these um, better understanding of everything that he is living with. And it's not mom and dad, it's the bear, and it's the fish, and it's the skunk, and it's the porcupine. It's the moose attacking him. How is he going to survive if he doesn't understand the world around him? And so that's a huge concept in the story too, is that nature is powerful and there are ways that we can learn from it. But when you're thrown out in the middle of it and you don't know what you're doing, you got to learn quick, or else you're going to be kicking porcupines and dealing with skunks spraying in your eyes and worrying about moose trying to kill you. They're dangerous, by the way. Stay away from them. So let's see if there's anything else I can touch on here. I think that's about it on that. Brian is permanently changed for the better by his deep understanding of the natural world, even though he cannot continue living there because he gets picked up. Would he have liked to have just stayed there? He seemed to be like he was doing all right by the end of the story. Um, should he have just stayed, or should he have gone? What would you have done? So the last one is the power of language. Brian uses his voice to communicate, even when there's no one else around. And when he's doing that, um, you know, it's a way to still have a human connection, even if that connection is with himself. So he turns to language as a coping mechanism and a survival tool. Eventually, that tool is "I'm down here" or "I'm over here," um, and then thinking about the way that his parents divorced while on the plane. He thinks about the words divorce and lawyers and visitation rights and legal phrases that mean nothing. And then the pilot dies, and Brian turns again to language, this time as a mode of support rather than a force of destruction. He wants to um, easy. He needs to fly the plane. It's easy to say that he can fly the plane, but it's hard to do. He just learned that for the first time, so he has to say that to himself. Um, Easy to say, hard to do. Land the plane. He repeats the phrase, easy to say, hard to do, until it becomes a chant that beat with the engine, as it said in the story. So, after the crash, Brian is largely helpless until he says aloud, "Here I am." And he speaks those words for the first time since the crash. His brain triggered and he began thinking. He had to think again. He was alive, and he used his voice to give himself an idea of what his new reality was. Um, so now he had to act. So his voice is used as a way to talk himself through things. He lists his mistakes mentally and analyzes them, so he is still using language even if he's not speaking. And even a negative word can have power for good, or the other way around, underscoring the way that careful, thoughtful engagement with language can be a tool for shaping the reality for the better, is a way that Paulson says that positive thinking is a way to build character. So Brian is able to overcome his adversity because he has no choice, and he talks himself through his survival. And so language is powerful. Um, it keeps him sharp. It gives him purpose, and helps him to overcome those struggles that he's facing. So perhaps he longed for it after a while, to be able to have that connection with the world again and speak to a person. But to me, at the end, it's just kind of like, oh, hey, you're here. And it kind of threw me off the first time I read it, but you'll see. So this is 25 points in the quiz grade. If you haven't watched this video, then you wouldn't have heard this. So hopefully you have watched it, and it will help you create your paragraph response and thoughtful response. And if you have watched it, tell your friends how much easier it makes your response. So hope you're all well, and I know we only have about 8 days now by the time you see this. So we'll talk soon, and do a great job. Bye-bye for now.